Happy holidays and greetings everybody. My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for another episode of our 12 Sprues of Kit-mas video series. Today we're going to be moving forward on day number 3, so I'm very excited to go ahead and see what we have in store for us. Let's go ahead and grab that box, punch a hole through that third cubby, see what we can pull out. Now last 2 episodes have been really fun to build, both a Ki-61 and an F4F Wildcat, so let's go ahead and find out what's in store for this next installment. Push our hand down through the parchment paper, kind of fish around a little bit. I've got the label, let's go ahead and pull that out, and looks like we're going to be building a 1/72nd scale Curtis Tomahawk Mark IIB, which I think is the equivalent of the American P40C. So that's awesome. Now I've heard some really good things about this particular kit. That's why I went ahead and I bought one for 12 sprues, because I figured, you know what, everyone else seems to enjoy building it, why don't we give one a shot as well? Looks like we've got a nice color callouts here on the back. Looks like a standard dark earth with dark green camo on the upper surface and a bit of a sky color on the bottom lower surfaces. So that doesn't look to be too difficult. We've got some really cool decals here. Strangely enough though, no tiger shark markings. That's actually very different because most of the time you see a P40 and it's got that tiger shark mouth. It's a different scheme entirely, so that's kind of nice. Looking at the plastic itself, I can already tell this is going to be much higher quality than both the Ki-61 and the F4F. Not only is this very finely recessed panel lines, it looks like it's got some detail on the cockpit. Let's go ahead and open up the poly bag and let's double check that. Let's go ahead and pull out these 2 sprues. We have a third sprue of clear right in there as well. And oh yeah, this is actually very nicely detailed. Compared to the other 2 kits, this is beautiful. We've got internal detailing, we've got some ribbing, we've got some structural details as well. A nice looking cockpit for sure. So this is great. This is actually a step up from our last 2 kits, so I'm happy with that. Also, very finely recessed panel lines. It looks great. I think this is going to be a fantastic little build. Let's go ahead and check the canopy. Looks like we only have a 1-piece canopy. So that's a little bit of a letdown, to be honest, but it's okay. I'm fine with it. So I've got my Humbrol color callout sheet here. We're going to go ahead and grab some paint. We're going to start painting up the interior of the cockpit. We're also going to be making some seat belts out of Tamiya tape and aluminum foil. And we'll be going ahead and doing the basic construction for the wings, fuselage, and the rear tailplanes. So all in all, this should go together very well. So now it's time to go ahead and jump into our very first time lapse. Let's get this thing cracking and see what we can do. All right, guys, let's do it. All right, everybody, we are back, and as you can see, our P40 is coming along. We're going to go ahead and do a little test fit here on the propeller. They actually want you to install the propeller first before you put the top of the cowling on. The only problem I have with that is that inevitably I will end up breaking off one of these propellers if I do that. So instead, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm actually just going to go ahead and friction fit that at a later time, and we're just going to go ahead and put on the top of the cowling first and not worry about gluing down the propeller. I think that's probably a pretty safe bet. I already have to worry about the antenna sticking up from the back for that aerial. That's already in the way, and I've already knocked it several times. So yeah, I might end up breaking that off too. You never know. A little bit of extra thin Tamiya right here on the front nose. We'll go ahead and put that cowling down on top. So far, the fit has been excellent, and the cowling, maybe a little bit of a seam here and there, but I think a couple of swipes of the jeweler file should take that right down, and we should look awesome. So I am pleased. We're going to go ahead and I think move into another time lapse though, guys. We're going to work on some priming. We're going to get some pre-shade done. I want to go ahead and figure out the colors that we're going to be using for this. And I actually have looked through our chart for Humbrol colors, and it looks like Tamiya Sky is going to be perfect for the lower section of the aircraft. And for the upper colors, we've got some dark earth and some dark green, both by Vallejo. Now that we have the front cowling all nicely secured, I'm going to go ahead and grab our jeweler files, and we're going to start cleaning up some of the seams and get this thing ready for priming. I'm going to be using the Stalnerez white primer that I've used on both of my other builds that I've done so far. I just like how the white primer looks for these smaller scales. It doesn't bring the color down. It actually kind of elevates the color a little bit, makes it a bit more vibrant. I think is a really great thing for smaller scales. So I'm happy with that. We're going to go ahead and start on the priming, get some pre-shade with NATO black, camo colors for the sky lower surfaces, and the dark earth and dark green upper surfaces. That's going to be fun, guys. Let's go ahead and get this going in another time lapse, see what we can do. right, everybody, we are back, and I gotta tell you, this P40 is such a nice little kit, guys. This is actually going together far better than the last two builds I've done. It's got great detail, really nice part fit. I'm just really happy about this one. We went ahead and applied the camouflage pattern, and I gotta tell you, it's not as easy to do a hard edge demarcation line, but with some tape and a freehand X-Acto knife, we've been able to create a masking system that looks about right. It's an approximation of the actual design, but I think I'm okay with it. There are a couple of areas that are maybe a little bit off, a little bit askew, but I mean, to be honest, it's okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on though to some detail work. All the undersurface is all painted up, so now all we have to do is go ahead and install the landing gears and the landing gear bay doors. That's not that difficult to do. I've kind of held back from installing them because I figured I would probably snap one of them off if I got too clumsy with the aircraft. Another reason why I waited till now to go ahead and put on that front propeller. I just figured I'd break something off if I have too many things sticking out from the model. The landing gears themselves have a very nice solid attachment point. It is a square peg that goes right into the underside of the wing. Just got to make sure we have those axles facing the right direction. We'll glue those down and then we'll go ahead and put on the wheels. Once we get these installed, I think we're going to go ahead and move on to some decals. I'll go ahead and do those off camera real quick because I don't want to waste too much time. So there's a couple of stencils here and there, but mostly it's just the markings for the wings and then the fuselage. So I'm going to go ahead and just move forward, do that real quick off camera, quick layer of micro set, go ahead and get that decal on, overcoat it with micro sol, and we'll be good to go. Then we'll go ahead and overcoat all of that with some future, and I think we'll be ready to rock. All right, guys, we are back and our aircraft has been nicely gloss coated. We've got our decals on, and this is pretty nice. I got to tell you, these decals went on beautifully. Didn't have any trouble with them. They didn't tear, didn't rip. They're sturdy enough, but yet thin enough that I'm happy with the results. So this is great. Now we're going to go ahead though and move on to some weathering, get some oil work done, get some powder work done, get some washes, and then we're going to go ahead and do a final coat and see how this thing turns out. All right, everybody, we are back and we have finished day number 3 for our 12 sprues of Kit-mas. This is the 1/72nd scale Airfix Curtis Tomahawk Mark IIB. What a great little kit, guys. It fit together beautifully. The decals were excellent. It's got a nice bit of detail on the inside of the cockpit compared at least to the last 2 aircraft I built, so I'm happy with it. Now, luckily, I didn't feel the need to do any sort of scratch building, so all I did was add some seat belts into the cockpit. Everything else was pretty much right out of the box. The canopy doesn't fit as well as I would like it to. The rear panels, well, they were a little bit finicky to get in there, but I think they look okay. I went ahead and used a little bit of color pencil here and there to go ahead and chip up some of the paint. I wanted to give it a little bit of a used effect. Nothing too stark or too overly done. Weathering is not one of my strong points, but I think I'm getting better. I tried to go ahead and keep the colored pencil marks around areas that made sense. So like, for example, the ammo bays, or maybe some of the engine covers, or a rat around the wing walk to go ahead and enter into the cockpit. I did a little bit of weathering powder work here along the guns, along the underside of the aircraft. I wanted to go ahead and dirty up a couple of areas and kind of streak it back a little bit. I did end up using a little bit of our North African dust wash that I had, tried to give it a little bit of a dingy effect. But we're going to go ahead and call it quits for today, guys. Day number 3 is all finished up. I'm going to toss this into my display case, and next episode we'll move on to day number 4. So until then, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on the next episode of the 12 Sprues of Kit-mas. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.